Hey everyone, here we are in the first edition. We're gonna make this series talking about the Harry Potter trading card game, and we're gonna call the Harry Potter Trading Card Game Talks. And my first guest, with a lot of pleasure, it's my friend, one of the members and mothers of the Harry Potter TCG Revival group.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, and thanks for having me on. I'm glad I finally got to meet you after so long. And once COVID is done and we can have Gen Con and all the in-person events again, we will definitely be meeting a lot of people in person.
I just make some notes to what I'm gonna ask you, and of course, as I told you before we started recording, English is not my first language. I just learned from playing cards, reading, and play video games, listen to music. So sorry already for some mistakes of my English, but I will try it. I started deck when I was like 15 years, and then I don't play it anymore. I play from this time like Dragon Ball cards from the 2000 score one, the new one Super, but in Brazil it's really not popular. Who doesn't know, I am Brazilian. I played Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon. Usually I was playing more before the pandemic Keyforce. There's a new card game from Richard Garfield that I liked a lot, but in the pandemic I rediscovered the books, staying more at home, but I discovered the books and the card game again, and I started research, and the Harry Potter TCG Revival group was essential to meet a lot of people, trade cards, have more knowledge about the game, and this talks is about to have more knowledge. That some questions that I have that I guess a lot of people had starting or start researching about the game, like myself will have. My first question to you, Sammy, it's why do you think there is a recent demand for the game that unfortunately ends like in 2000?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I think one of the main reasons is just this, as we've said before, COVID. It's forcing people to stay home and forcing them to do things at home a lot more, and cards are an easy thing to do at home and play over and over again. And then people, especially in America, for example, and I guess over the world, but there's been a lot of stimulus payments. So people have a lot of extra cash, which is kind of ironic during COVID. And so they're spending it on this. And I think that, and what I hope is the biggest contributing factor are the fan-made sets that we started to release, kind of reviving the game and giving people something new to look forward to. So they're not just playing the same 5 sets. Now they have new cards, new artwork, new decks they can build. So I'm hoping that is the main driving force, but I think it's a bit of everything.
Do you know, because I don't know the exact reason why the game was released and like in 2-3 years ended? And I heard about some copyright issues. Do you know why, or what do you think that the game was released by the Wizards, which is a giant company that ruled the most popular card game, that is Magic, and like I think it's launched in 2001, right?
Yes.
And ended in the beginning of 2003, I think.
Yep, exactly.
Do you know why?
There's been a lot of talk about what the exact reason was, and there's never been anything that's been pinpointed as this is the one thing. But the main things I've heard, and I actually found a new article yesterday that was from like 5 or 6 years ago. There were some copyright things that were happening that were difficult to work around. And then I found an article yesterday from somebody who had worked on the game, and he said that there was an issue with ensuring a long-term, like 10-year contract with the game, and there were a lot of financial risks, and that was part of the contributing factor to why Wizard didn't continue it more than just the 2 or 3 years. And I think it was more than just that. I'm sure that there was stuff to do with Warner Brothers and Wizards of the Coast and just a whole bunch of different places that kind of melded together to make this game stop being produced.
Since I started playing, cards prices have only increased, right? I remember when I started playing the prices, and right now, like Dobby's Help and Dobby's Disappearance and even Venomous Tentacular Juice, it's going crazy. And how do you say it's covered the new demand because of the fan-made? Do you think that's why the prices go crazy nowadays?
I mean, I think you've hit on pretty much a lot of the big ones, and I'll return to that in a second. But something really interesting that you said was the price of like Dobby's Disappearances and VTJ. Rewind to a year and a half ago, and almost all of the sales posts were Dobby and VTJ. They were all individual cards, and that's what people were wanting. Fast forward to today, and you almost never see a sales post for a card. It's all boxes, which I think talks about the shift players who wanted to buy individual cards to collectors who just want boxes to display or for other reasons. So I think that the group of people who are really pursuing this game now, it has shifted. Players are obviously still trying to get their hands on stuff, but collectors are making it more expensive because there's there's just a huge influx of people who want to play. So I think that's part of the reason. The collectors, I think a lot of the stuff that you said is also contributing to the price increases. And it's all unfortunate because it creates barriers for people who want to play in person with cards and just can't afford a $2,000 box of cards that they'll probably never get that money back for. And so it's a barrier that we're trying to mitigate as much as we can with Revival. We're working proxies that people can use. We're working on a digital platform that people can use. So we're trying to do stuff to help mitigate this extreme price increase. And it may be a bubble that is going to burst when COVID is done and people get back to other things in their life. It may continue to rise. There's been a lot of people who buy 100 boxes super cheap and hold on to them and then sell them when they're more expensive. I mean, there's so many things that are contributing to it. And unfortunately, we can't. Ideally, we would just have a community of people who just want to play the game, open everything, play all the games, have fun. But collectors are a big part of any kind of community, and they're here and they're not going to go anywhere because collectors don't. They just stay in stuff for longer and longer. It's how you make money and stuff. So it is what it is, but we are trying to mitigate it. We should have some cool stuff coming out to help with proxies over the next couple of months. So that's going to be really, really exciting for people. And there's already some great high def stuff for our fan-made set that came out and our future ones as well. So lots of stuff is contributing to it. Hopefully it dies down after COVID, but we'll just have to see what happens.
Our currency right nowadays from Brazil, it's really, really bad. So we have to multiplicate the price for like 5 times the price. You can't find like a lot of people playing Brazil. Like you have some people that, like you told, they're more interested in like have the offer and demand and want to, frozen the stock and then release for a higher price. You have just a little few people that really want, enjoy and play the game for the love and not because the money. And luckily I got some Dobby's help in the Venomous and Tentacular Juice that's really hard to find, and I really love Snape character and really love my Snape deck, so I wanted to have physic. But for example, the Disappearance I give up because it's impossible to have. You can't find for less than 100 and a half, 200, right?
And that's a little cheap. Yeah
entirely.
So
and I remember when it started like in the middle of last year, I talked I think to you, to Stefan, and I remember that the usual price is like $60 off.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think a year and a half ago for like a foil version, people were saying, wow, like $60, $70. And that was a lot for something in Harry Potter a year and a half ago. And that was like the go-to card because of just how completely broken it is as a card in this particular game. And now I honestly cannot remember the last time I saw a Dobby's Disappearance post for sale or bond, because it's all just boxes. It's a case of cards. It's no longer just an individual Dobby's Disappearance. I don't think part of that may be from that we banned it in Revival. Part of it may not be that. Part of it may just be this whole collector craze. I really don't know what the reason is for that. Probably a couple of things contributing to it, but
we're talking about the fan-made collection. I remember when I started playing, when I started like an entering the group in a month, I think that you launched the collection. I think it's amazing. I always like in the Brazilian group, I always say that some people that don't contribute with anything and want to criticize who take the initiative. Some people say, oh, it's not the same illustration as the Wizards, and I started like a discussion. I say, man, they do for fan-made, they're trying to do something. And either way, my sister, who is illustrator, I show her and she thinks the illustrator is amazing. And so that kind of stuff I really enjoy and really like, just not the group itself. It's a space of debate and to talk about the game. But beside that, the initiative of doing something, like to try to really, like the group name say, Revival.
I lead most of the card design portion of Revival. And that's kind of how that breaks down into who does what. And Stefan is still involved in that process, obviously, and works with us on that. So I help to kind of organize everybody who's on the design team, find artwork, have meetings and kind of work through that. So I lead more of that portion of it, as well as my moderating piece as well. And I just want to talk briefly about something you said earlier about the artwork. Everybody has their opinions about artwork one way or another. And one thing you saw that was a big change in like 2002 to 2004-ish, as the movies became more popular and whatnot, was this change in aesthetic for Harry Potter from the 1998 to 2002 drawing phase to this more movie-oriented direction. I played Harry Potter from 2001 onward. Loved the game. I read the books when I was 6 back in 1998 with my mom and my dad. Like, love Harry Potter, and I love that classic feel. So when we were doing Revival, we were talking about, do we want to continue with this classic Harry Potter feel, or do we want to go more of the movie route? And all of us are not against the movie look for products, but we just love that classic Harry Potter feel. And we wanted to continue the original spirit of the game, which had that classic look. And so some of the artists, such as your sister, such as some artists that have drawn like Aragog and that series from Heir of Slytherin, some of the other artists that did particular other cards, Vlad and other people, are now artists that have come back to us and have said, I want to draw something for the next set. And for me, and Stefan, the entire thing is building a community of people and connecting Harry Potter fans, and just the joy that artists get from actually having their work be used in an actual Harry Potter thing, and then fans to see how other fans see Harry Potter. It's just a really nice community, and I absolutely love it. Like, I have wanted expansions for Harry Potter since it ended when I was a child, and to be able to be part of this community that connects people in that way, and like to hear your stories with Mona and how that friendship has grown, like that's exactly what Stefan wanted, I think, when he started Revival. And since I've been involved, that's what I wanted Revival to do as well. It's really awesome. And the artwork, it is what it is. I love all the artwork. I think it's beautiful. I love being able to look at particular pieces and be able to tell this was made by Vlad, or this was made by Hogwarts Horror, because each artist has like a stamp on their artwork and how it looks. And I just think that's beautiful. So I can't wait to get more artwork, regardless of people's thoughts. I just think it's wonderful.
Of course, first, you can't compare the biggest company of card game, have a lot of higher illustrators with something
Exactly.
fan-made. I like the variety of illustrations you have in the Revival expansions, because you have manga, you have more like abstracted, you have more realistic, you have more cartoonish, So I like that. I really like the new systems, like the thinking of the game system. You played the card game since the beginning of it?
Yeah, so I was 9 years old, I think, when the game first came out. And my best friend, her name is Sophia, and she actually drew, I believe it was 3 pieces for her Heir of Slytherin. And she has more coming out in our next set coming out. And she's a fantastic artist. Shout out to Sophia. You're fantastic. And she lived 2 doors down, and we met when we were like 3 and 4, and immediate like lifelong friends. And we would play Harry Potter all day long. Like, we both fell into the entire world, loved it, loved all the fantasy, the fiction of it, loved the stories. When the game came out, both of us would buy cards, or our parents would buy cards for us, because we were so young, and we played it from 2001 onwards. We went away to college, obviously, saw each other on breaks, and then she moved around and she lives elsewhere now. But whenever she comes home, every single time she's come home for the past decade, whenever we're together, we have played Harry Potter. And it's just been so much fun. It's been an absolute blast. So being part of this now is like literally coming full circle for her and I, especially helping to design and draw new sets, because Harry Potter and the card game is what inspired her to be an artist. And she's now a very accomplished worldwide graphic designer. So to actually have her artwork on cards, I think is amazing for her. And I hope it means as much to her as it does to me. And it's just like a full circle thing for me to be an adult, be like one of the leaders in this thing. It's just, I can't explain how wonderful this is for me and how much I love it, and how thankful I am to have people like you who are making content for it, people like Mona, people like Snugsy, who runs our online Tuesday night tournaments. All of you are making all of this so much better for me, for Stefan, for everybody. So I could gush about how awesome this situation is for me to be part of this all day long, because it really is cool. I have this fantastic picture that I posted in the Harry Potter group probably 2 or 3 years ago. And it's a picture of Sophia and I when we were 9 or 10 years old on my back picnic table playing cards, unsleeved on the plain picnic table like monsters. And it was so much fun. But it's like a memory that I'll never forget. And it's just an absolutely beautiful thing.
I'm going to ask you, of course, about the 6th and the 7th expansion that, of course, everyone is waiting, because it's one of the favorite book of everyone, favorite movie. What you can tell me, of course, with no spoilers, and what you can say about the 7th expansion. Of course, everyone is hoping for some exciting news.
So what can I say about about the Prisoner of Azkaban's expansions. So there's not really a ton that I can say, just because decisions are still being made by Revival. We're still working on it. I will say that we are working on it. It is happening. It's probably going to be about the same size or slightly larger than Heir of Slytherin. So it's going to be, 80 to 90 cards, maybe 100, but we'll kind of see when stuff shakes out. It will most likely be 3 sets, but not necessarily 3 sets in the way you think. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. I think there's going to be some really cool mechanics that are going to be new kinds of mechanics that will be a lot of fun. And then there will also be cards that are going to help amplify some past archetypes and some past mechanics that are going to be a lot of fun. I love my personal play style in whatever game I play is jank. I absolutely love just the quirky randomness of what jank is. I'm not super competitive when it comes to card games. I just like to play for fun. So there's definitely some jank involved in this set, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Some jank that's going to help some new jank that's going to really help some old jank. And that's going to be a blast to do. I think that everybody's going to really love some of the characters. They are really cool characters for starting characters. And I'm not going to go into specifics on what's going to happen with that, but very cool starting characters. Potentially some new meta starting characters. We'll see how stuff plays out. I guess if you want to ask a specific question, I can give you a vague response, but I don't know what else to really say.
I don't want to push it too hard. Just for me, I think the major doubt for everyone is hoping are gonna be turning more generic. It's gonna be a new kind of lesson.
So I'm not gonna speak to whether there's gonna be a new type of anything. When we start designing a set, there's a lot that goes into it because we have to consider the original 5 sets, and then we also have to consider where we plan to take the game in books 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we have had those discussions on kind of where we want to go. So we have to decide what's the best way to build this so it bridges the past with the future. So decisions are still being are still being made. Discussions are still happening. There's a lot going into the design, whatever comes out of this. But currently, I unfortunately cannot give you any details about a new anything. I will say the flavor is going to be there as much as it was in Heir of Slytherin. We've already made a lot of cards that are on point with the flavor. I think people are going to absolutely love it. I love the flavor with a lot of them. So much fun. The artwork for it, what I've collected so far is fantastic. I think people are really going to love the artwork. Particularly the artwork for Sirius Black is stellar. Absolutely beautiful. The artwork for a lot of the cards, a lot of the Dementor themed cards, the artwork is frightening but beautiful for. I think people are really going to be excited for that. And what's really cool about this set is with Heir of Slytherin, we were wrapping up book 2. So we were kind of building off of what Wizards had started, trying to finish it. With Prisoner of Azkaban, this is the first book where we have complete control of how the entire thing looks. So we're trying to put our own stamp on it as the Revival team while still holding true to the original Wizard stuff. So it's going to be very, very exciting. I'm very excited about a lot of it. I cannot wait to share it and start playing with people because we're trying to really push certain things and help balance out some stuff. It's going to be a blast. And I will say that I am a big tribal player in everything. I love tribal stuff and Magic. I'm a big merfolk person. Merfolk and dinosaurs are my 2 tribes. I love tribal stuff way too much. So hopefully there's going to be some cool tribal stuff. I'll say that plants are my favorite tribal thing in Harry Potter. So we'll see what happens in the future with that.
Just always love it. Tribal decks. In the Magic, I tried the elf decks.
Oh God, elves.
Yeah. Yep. And when I see your tribal deck list, I went nuts. Of course, first I make the plant ones because I love the Mandrake, the Sprout. I think it's the more real tribal one. It communicates almost all the cards, But I built the all deck and I don't thought it's gonna be too powerful. And when I play it, I think nowadays it's my best deck. Because of the owls, you have a lot of opportunity, if I have, for example, a creature, it's pain dash for me, I can return a guy to host pass and with an owl and put and give it 4 damage. So, and Magogano, it's one of my favorite starter because, and the called by his name because me and Mona set like a list for us that is limited one per deck, still independent there. So, but yeah, I think everyone's is excited because the third book, it's in the movie, it's like a changing in how the series is growing up. You know, I think the first two books and movies are more like childish. The three, I think, is beginning of the growing up and the dark things in Hogwarts, the dark side of Hogwarts, and of course, additional to a lot of lovely characters like Lupin and Sirius Black. So I can't wait to see them on the new Revival expansion. As I love it so much, the Heroes Leadering, I made create a proxy for each card, even the common ones. Of course, the cards that I were gonna add to my decks, I made like 4-5 copies. But I made each of one and I'm gonna put in the binder. Like, I really enjoy it, and of course I'm really excited about the seventh. Of course I love the movies. When I was a teenager, I put in the big screen and make the fantasy. Of course I have my version before, but I like the version that the Chris Columbus and everyone created, and other directors put it and more ads. But I agree with you. I love even the Wizards cards, because when they created it before the launch of the first movie, right? And even the fan-made collections.
But I do want to touch briefly on something you said about the artwork and what your own image is from the books. The person who drew Sirius Black also drew some cards in Heir of Slytherin. I won't say who. They contacted us and they said, I have this image of Sirius Black from the book. Can I draw it? They said, Gary Oldman is a really great actor and he does a superb job as Sirius, but I have this different image. And I said, like when people come to me for art, I tell them, I will give you the card name. You produce what you want to as an artist. I'm not going to micromanage. So this person sent us their Sirius probably a week or two ago, and it is like detailed exactly how it's described in the book, and the Sirius Black looks amazing. Everything is just how the book describes him and how it pictured him as a child, and I'm like, this is just fantastic. So that's one thing I love about all the artwork for these revival sets. People are just like showing what they think things should look like, and it's not tied to the movies, and it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, I enjoy so much the hobby of card games that sometimes I just take my binder and have sometimes looking at the arts, looking at the quotes, you know, and that's what I like. I always thought and wanted, and thanks God that happened, that not gonna be a Harry Potter card game with photos and frames of the movies. There's some like that. There's a Star Wars card game. I really like the another view, because I think sometimes we get tired of the same Daniel Radcliffe kind of Harry Potter, you know, and that's what I like too in the Harry Potter card game, even from the Wizards and expansions from Revival, is that it's not the same Harry Potter in each card, you know, like you can find a different Harry Potter in cards. So I love that, and I really, the card that I most want to see is Sirius Black from the 7th expansion, and when you add that, I'm more anxious.
So I will say Sirius Black will be in this set. He'll be in the Prisoner of Azkaban set. Regardless of which actual set he's in, he will be in this. And you may end up seeing him twice.
Nice.
We'll have to see what happens.
I liked what you do it already in the 6th expansion. It's like some cards that connect with cards that maybe looks like weak in past expansions, and then in the new cards can be strong, like magic happens all the time. And I love the new mechanic things. One of the things that I love in Keyforge, it's that they add new mechanics almost each new expansion, and to really change all the game, and I like that. Each card have his one, like maybe a greenhouse tree will be a essential card from a tribal plan deck, for example. But like in your mind right now, like without thinking too much, just like more universal cards, what do you think is like maybe the 5 most power creep cards for you in the card game?
So I think the most power creep cards would probably be Dobby's Disappearance, Caught by Snape, Ron Weasley, mainly because Dobby and Ron, those two cards kind of break the action economy rules of the game in an unfair way. So those I think are incredibly powerful. And then after that, I don't really have a number 4 and a 5. There's really common cards such as like Black Bat's very common, Welsh Green is very common, Taking on Neville is very common, but they're not necessarily like power creep. They're very powerful and very good. I don't think that they're like a tier 0 in the way that Ron or Caught or Dobby's Disappearance are. Obviously, there's other opinions out there on what are the most powerful cards, but those would be my top 3. And I will say that we try to be as conservative as possible when we're designing the cards, because we've seen the issues that have come with these power creep cards, and we want cards to be good, but we don't want to make a Dobby's appearance all the time. And there's some revival cards, I think they will get better with the Prisoner of Azkaban set, but there's some revival cards that are played in a lot of decks, particularly the book cycle that we created, that's played in a lot of decks. And then there's a couple other random cards that are played in quite a few decks, but there's none that are like power creep to that level of the top 3 that I think are the top 3.
What you think it's the strongest deck that you already built it or see it and try to recreate, and which one you more like to play, like more for fun?
That's a really good question. I don't know which one I think is the most powerful. As a personal vendetta against Dobby's disappearance, I refuse to put that in any of my decks. I just don't like the card. I don't think it was correct for Wizards to print it. So none of my decks have that. I think my decks are not as powerful as they could be because I put that building restriction on myself. But my most powerful deck, I really don't know what that would be. I've never thought about my decks in that way because I just play more for fun. So instead, I'm just going to talk about what decks I have the most fun playing. And my all-time favorite type of lesson is Quidditch. Quidditch is the best. I don't care what people say. I don't care that it loses all the time. Quidditch is the best type of lesson. I love building Quidditch decks, and not just Angelina match decks. I really enjoy building Harry the Seeker decks as well, because he can really help with card draw whenever you need it. So not whenever you need it, but when you play a lesson. I love splashing Quidditch. I love Quidditch and something else that doesn't always make sense. It's just so much fun. So I usually have the most fun playing some kind of weird Quidditch setup, whatever that happens to be. But lately, actually online, a deck that I've been playing quite a bit, 2 of them, is a big potions deck where everything costs a discard or 2 of a potion lesson, but they all do 10 damage. Tons of fun to play because you just play 1 card and it's here's 10 damage to your face or 12 damage, and that's just hilarious. And then, so that's just a lot of fun. But the other one that I'm having a ton of fun with, and will hopefully get better in the future soon, is my Armando House deck. And it starts Armando Dippet, which is a revival card, and it focuses on Slytherin Common Room and dealing damage that way, and then using characters who are Slytherins, and then using the 4 house pets. So those are my funnest decks.
I really like the Dodging the Bludger. I put 4 in my Quidditch. I play with Oliver Wood because it don't seem too powerful, but in practice, I can finish a game. It's you say, oh, just add more 8, but in the right time, I think can be mortal. And I don't like to play a match and live there. I like to play a match and catch the snitch, because I already been bad times because I played the match and I don't know, a disappearance, a picking on evil, or the mana give me out too much damage, and when I notice she win the match. So but of course I love Angelina Jones some 2 decks. And about that the power, we can see that the power of the cards increases in each official Wizards expansion. I think the Adventure Hogwarts show up a lot of powerful cards like Pomfrey. I think Black Bat is from Adventure Hogwarts, right?
Yep.
It's everyone puts in creature decks, and also
Exactly.
So it's a really good card. It's for me, it's the same. You look at the first time, oh, it's not too powerful, but in the game, in the action, I think it's really good. Like Steel Claw, for me, it's moral. It's I put in all my creature deck. And of course, in the last expansion of Wizards, it's Chamber of Secrets, we saw a lot of power creep cards. I like it all, like Dob's Appearance. I don't think it should be this, because for just 4 lessons, you undo 1 turn, 1 action of the opponent, and it's for free. So it's you can play 4,
Exactly.
And still have 2 actions.
That's the problem. Yes, the problem is that you get to do it for free. There's no cost other than the 1 card in your hand, but that's not even too much of a cost when you can use actions to draw a card. So it's just really unfair.
And you think that the Wizards is trying to do more competitive, because I saw that the first editions, they try to make more for children, just have fun more, and of course a competitive option. I bought some magazines that talk about the game, like Scry, Game Unplugged, and I read about it, and they say they want to like focus in like just children playing, like free for all rule and more competition. Do you think like with the what they show in the 50 expansion, you think they want to try more competitive game?
I think that's the direction they were going to head eventually. Were it still in print for another year or two, I think they would have had some kind of formal tournament. There's actually old blogs you can read. The one I referenced earlier, actually, in that same one, he said that Wizards had planned the next year, because I think the blog was talking about like late 2002. Plan was in 2003 to go to Gen Con and hold a Harry Potter tournament. It didn't happen because the game was canceled in the springtime. So, but there's evidence and reports that it was heading in that direction. I don't think that power creeping cards is a way to get tournament play to happen. I think that's a very poor design. I think Wizard often power creeps cards, and it's not great. We saw that a lot with like Throne of Eldraine recently, and then there's a couple cards in their two recent sets that are just too power crept. So I don't think that's a good way to do it. And what's great about the Revival team is that we have some people who really want to push cards, and then we have other people like me who are like, I'm super reserved, don't push anything. And that balance is really good to get some good cards that kind of fit with everything. Hopefully we won't have to ban any of our cards, but you never know what's going to happen.
Did you know that if there exists sometime a banned restricted list from Wizards, or not get to that point?
They never got to that point because they never had official Wizard tournaments.
They have the league, but it's not like a big tournament, right?
What the league was Wizards sanctioned card game stores to host their own events. That's what I understand the league to be. I don't think the league was anything very official, like this big tournament system like Magic has with Pro Tours and all that kind of stuff.
I found an article too. I have printed and saved it because I saved some things to do not lose. You have the more than knowledge to tell me because you live it that. I heard that the game was the second most popular game in the United States, and did you live there, leader? But
yeah,
you live it. It become that popular when they launched it.
I've seen the same article you have, and I don't know what the answer is. I know in the early 2000s, Magic did see a recession. I don't know why they saw a recession. I don't know what was happening, but early 2000s was when this game was coming out. So it makes sense that this might have been the best-selling game, but that could have also just been for like a quarter of the year. It might not have been for the full year. I mean, I don't know what kind of metrics they use to decide all of that.
Just because they stop making more copies, it's enough, less people with it to sell when the prices went up. Do you know if there is like they produce less cards, less boosters, less booster box of Chamber of Secrets? And maybe that's why too, beside the cards, a lot of cards that went to a lot of decks. If someone has sealed in your house, congrats, you're rich. So you think that that's one of the reasons? I don't know if they printed less because the game maybe they know that is ending or something.
I think that you're probably on the right track with that. Wizards never releases how much of a product they print, so there's no telling if they printed the same amount and just we haven't found it yet, or if somebody's hoarding it, or what's happening. But I think that, as you said, they kind of knew that it was going to be ending, and they might not have printed as much, because if they were gearing up to do tournaments the next year, you would have thought that they would have printed as much of that set. So we don't know what the real reason is or what's going on there.
Sometimes some people, friends and stuff, here saying, oh, you spend too much money on that, you spend too much time on that. Can't explain in words that it's not just a game, it's not just because Harry Potter, it's a hobby that helps me out. And as I said, I think a lot of people had, and it's a health problem. I have some depression times. Sometimes, when pandemic, of course, everybody wants to stay isolated, so we get more crazy. And the game helped me a lot.
Stuff like that is exactly what I love to hear. Like that's what I hope this game is doing for people.
And this, like, sometimes I remember last year I have I'm in the process of moving because I have like bad times in my last apartment. Now I have a nice apartment, but I have problems with neighbors and sounds, and it's almost crazy, like I really almost lose my mind. And I remember that sometimes, besides when my wife helps me, it was when I stop and playing by webcam with Modern, for example. It's one of my escapes of even if the neighbor is too loud, like can make me crazy. And that's one of my escapes to reality, and that's why I think the card game, it's more than just a hobby. It really helps me out in the past year. Talking about your link, why do you love this game so much, to the point that you make this amazing work, is, like just fan-made, just for the game. What's your link with the Harry Potter world and the card game?
My link is really, so on top of Sophia, my great friend, being inspired to draw art for, and pursue that career as an artist because of this game. Harry Potter, I've always loved fantasy and kind of the mystical, and especially wizards. And this was everything I loved about fantasy as a child. And I loved escaping into these other worlds, and just kind of exploring them. And Harry Potter allowed me to do that. And then it also inspired me to write as well, to create book, create series, and that kind of thing. And I absolutely love it. And Harry Potter really inspired that. And so getting into it at such a young age and having that escapism from it just kind of persisted throughout my entire life. But it's a little more than just kind of this inspiration for that, because it also taught me a lot of lessons just about friendships and how to be a good person and to fight for what you believe in, and the power to change things. And there's just all of those good-hearted lessons in the books that I've just held on to for my entire life. And they've really influenced who I am, how I think, the things I do. And so then this game, being a part of it, was just something that I've always clung on to and loved. And so it's just continued ever since because of just the passion and excitement from all that.
And that's why I'm so addicted to the card game as never been before in other. I play like almost 10 different card games so far, and that's why I think it's so magic, because I think like I said, I like simple things. I love board games when I see it's too much complicated, too many items, I understand who like it, but I like simple things. The books are simple and good, and the card game is really simple but at the same time can be really fun, good, and competitive. So that's why I think the magic of the Harry Potter, and you have like so much lovely and passionate fans.
And I said before, like, just those connections and like the artist connection to the fans, you and Mona, the friends I've made in it, like that's what it's all about. And that's why I keep doing it, because it's so much fun. I love these friendships that form. I love the connections. I love the joy. It's just beautiful.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sam, for talking to me. It's really good, like, beside playing, just talk and share some knowledge and some doubts and some feelings about the game. And you're in the head of the future of the game, so thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And it was nice chatting.